Yeah.
This is pretty much the trial of the accused in the state of California for the count of violation of the spirit of the American dream through limited access to a sufficient higher education. So we're going to kick it off with the prosecution and the facts that they presented. And here is the prosecution's folder. Randy, quick question, just go with...
You can go over whatever you would like right now. It's your
anybody
show.
have any initial... Please talk. Man. Do you have anything about the prosecution?
You always have something to say.
Okay. So I believe the prosecution's first witness was James Tressler, the guy who originally made this American dream, and they're pretty much saying that California is not giving the proper gateway to higher education, which is pretty much demoralizing the American dream. Anybody have any? Okay. Since everybody wants to be crickets, I'm going to look over the evidence myself. It's a shame. It's a shame. None of this has nothing to do with what we do.
Got a hand? Just talk. You don't have to raise your hand.
You can just talk. Thank you.
Well, for the prosecutors, for the first witness, I think they did a good job showing that in James' time period in 1922, he said that a higher education wasn't exactly a requirement to get a job back then, and so they had I don't know exactly if they had a sufficient or insufficient higher education back then, but they did say that the requirement, that college was not exactly a requirement to get a job.
So you like how they compared and contrast from then to now, and now you need to have a solid education to get a sufficient paying job?
Yeah.
I like that as well. I'm trying to find the evidence.
They
on
made
it.
the point that, like, unlike back then, now pretty much part of the American dream is higher education. Like, before it was kind of like, oh, you can go to college and get a job if you want, or you can do something else. But now it's like, if you want to be successful and pursue or fulfill the American dream, you need a higher education.
Anybody want to carry on with that? They kept bringing up this sense of community college and how they were pretty much giving off the vibe like it wasn't as sufficient as a UC, which you can probably assume that as well. Richard Blum.
Yeah, the defense did say though that with the first witness as well that college and universities are hopeful to a job, but like you said, they did kind of state that the community colleges aren't as good to get a job these days as a university, but back then it didn't really matter what college you went to, as long as you got a job then you would suffice.
And then they brought up the small thing about an associate's degree when you graduate from community college, I believe, which is a lot. No?
Who?
No.
Oh, yeah,
Prosecution.
yeah.
We're talking about the prosecution. I know. They brought that up, and I think they brought up Alejandra. Yeah. And she was saying how you can get an associate's degree from community college and a bachelor's degree from a regular college, and how those two are substantially different in your job and what profession you want to partake in.
Yeah, and that associate's degree is the minimum requirement to get a job also.
Well, I mean, the point was also brought up of like what degree you're actually getting, because back then, I mean, you could go to law school or something and then you could go be a journalist. It was much less structured in that sense. But now if you want to be a journalist, you have to get a degree specializing in that.
Not sure if you guys can look at any of the evidence. It's a little mangled. What did you you think about when they brought up Thomas Friedman, the writer who writes about pretty much how colleges and the economy and revolving around college?
Well, I think it was pretty easy for him to go to college and universities because he said that he went to different universities and got different degrees, and he went to different colleges in Santa Barbara, and I forgot what the other place was exactly, but he said that he did go to different colleges and universities, so I think it was a little bit easier for him to get into the higher education system than it is today.
Yeah, and he said something like the California is 43rd in funding for schools, but then can we actually go like from the defense?
Sure, yeah.
And then defense was bringing up the fact that California has the lowest like student loans, but I'm not sure how could that be if they have the 43rd in funding and still have the lowest student loans. That's what I was a little confused about, especially on that point when I'm looking over the notes now. Because they did bring up Hawaii and a couple other states, but they really didn't give like a full chart about where California ranks.
They said that there were 2 states ahead of them.
And that was Pennsylvania and...
No, Pennsylvania was.
Right?
No, Pennsylvania was doing bad.
I think they said that California it's basically like third to last because Hawaii and Utah are the only states that have lower amount than California does.
Anybody? Yeah, master plan? Anybody have any input on the master plan that was brought up quite a bit in this?
I think both sides had good arguments for the master plan. I do think the prosecution gave a stronger argument over it based on the threats and like what they had to do to fix it.
I'm not sure the exact date when the master plan was made, but then who presented the master plan? Because they said it was updated. They gave an updated version of the master plan. Is that this updated version, I believe?
Is this one right here?
Not sure, just
What do you think? Anybody else in this corner? Or you guys all went to the trial. Anybody?
Can I actually see the master?
Yeah, sure. We're not there yet. We haven't made it to the defense part yet. We're still on prosecution.
If you want to just go in any, if you want to be a little flexible, because both sides are talking. I mean,
Yeah. Some charts. We want to see some charts. Status of least of students. Oh, yeah. Anybody know where California ranked on least spent on students? Because I'm looking at this evidence and it's just, you might have that in the notes. It's just ranking.
Oh yeah, they
When
spent
you what,
$8,667, $8,667 on
Yeah.
students.
And that was a $10,000 difference from New York, which is what's in the evidence right here. Oh, wow. So that's a strong point they brought up quite a bit, the prosecution. That was a strong point, saying how there's a big gap of differential in the spending for students in California from like places in the East Coast like New York. It's actually doubled, more than doubled, what they spend for students there.
And another good point they brought up was that the state spends more on students than their students. So I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
that was
Yeah, they spent
Almost 8
yeah, they spent $47,000 on prisoners.
I like the evidence, but I still don't know who spent, like, where does that come from? Like, the defense was talking about, where do these numbers come from? Like, do we pay for that? Taxpayers, state, federal, like, who pays for that? I have no idea.
Tax cuts and budget cuts.
If you can find the evidence, by all means, I will agree with you right there.
How this evidence right here is relevant to the limited
present it?
access. Caltech, JPL, the privacy policy, and important notices.
Nah, this is just extra. They just threw everything in here. It's not hurting the trials, that's good. Anybody? What about you, Ryan? What about the cross-examination by the defense? Anybody see the connections they established with the cross-examinations between the two? Because when Got it. Okay. Anything about the dropout rates that they were talking about? I think that was recent. That was today's.
Is it high school dropouts?
No, this was college dropouts because they couldn't afford college anymore. Today's evidence?
That's not loud. What is
This is
it?
the stuff from today, it was just sitting here.
Oh.
Yeah, because we still had another
It
witness.
was a little.
If they want, whatever evidence you have, they can
All right,
ask
that
for.
was. Do they want like the scripts for like closing statements?
You can ask them. I mean, do you guys want that stuff?
talk to them. Sure, yes.
Do you want to give them the script that you have? Anything you want to give them that they can
This
read
was
is
the one
fine.
before I added the time.
If you want to just give them your stuff, it helps them look at it.
In the rules.
Where it's allowed to talk to them.
So, based on this
Okay.
right here, it says,
Yeah, say what you're saying.
so based on this right here, it's saying that community college can still give you a good job. Like, it says that 70% of our state's nurses came from community colleges, and 80% of firefighters, law enforcement personnel, and emergency medical technicians also came from community colleges. So, are those like good paying jobs, or is it better to just go to a university?
All right, before we go over the evidence, let's just get what the count is. What do you guys think they're actually trying to prove here? Like the main concept, the American dream, act like, what is the big concept?
I think what they were trying to say, they kept bringing up the American dream because that's basically what the count is. But I think some things that they're constantly saying about it was more about like the financial side, and that most of this like crushing the American dream for people is due to like budget cuts or financial problems, and trouble getting financial aid so that they can go to universities.
What about you? I'm not trying to put the spotlight on anybody, I just want to get everybody involved, you know?
No,
I have
yeah, I
some
think
orders.
that's pretty much what they talked about, just like how money is affecting, how money is affecting the American dream as a whole, like not only education, but the American dream is for everyone to have equal opportunity, and if they don't have enough money to go to college, then they don't get to have the same opportunity as other people, and that could affect the American dream. So I think that was the main argument there.
You?
No, yeah, I agree. That's what sounds what I was
You guys be here? All right, well, I guess I'm not trying to put pressure on anybody.
So I agree, this trial was about the American dream, but both sides did go into the budget a lot. Like the prosecution, I felt like their main point they're trying to prove was that the budget cuts were like the biggest deal. So
I mean, I think that it was the access that was the biggest point in the whole thing. I mean, the American dream was there, but I felt like it was more about the access of getting into the colleges rather than fulfilling the American dream.
I think that for colleges to have scholarships, that kind of helps them achieve the American dream.
All right. So when I think both sides brought up how EMTs and nurses and police, they all are given an opportunity to go to community college, and they still have a pretty good job. What do you guys think about that? Like the retrospective of that?
I think that it was interesting how like we're putting California on trial because I guess we have an expectation of them to fulfill like a responsibility to the citizens of California to give them, you know, a sufficient opportunity to succeed in life through higher education. And we're kind of, I guess we expect them to do that a big way is through financial aid of like students and stuff, and also like financing universities and education. So that's kind of what we expect them to do, but then at the same time, can we really prosecute them for not putting money towards that when the money just isn't there? Like, I don't know. So it's kind of like, are we upset that they're not putting the money, and then are we upset that they just don't have the money? Because that's not something that we can really be upset about that, but we could be upset maybe like the prison versus education thing. Maybe they have the money, they're just not spending it on the right things.
Yeah, and when they brought Jerry Brown up here, he stated a couple times that they've done cuts to many different departments, but I would like to see the actual number of those cuts and see if education actually is being hit harder than other divisions.
Well, they did say that financial aid is possible because Nancy Yarbrough, the president of the Scholarship Federation, did say that anyone can apply to get scholarships and that the financial aid is there to help you get to a higher education. So maybe California isn't quite guilty of limiting the access to higher education if the scholarships are there. They just have to apply for it and actually try to see if they can get one before they make up their mind.
I mean, adding on to what you were saying, I guess when it comes to actually being able and getting the chance to go to college, everyone has the same opportunity. I just think that it's more of like taking advantage of that and really like making an effort to earn a scholarship to go to a university instead of just going to community college. But as far as like equality within opportunity, I think everyone has the same chance of getting into university.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to that, when Alejandra was up talking about the requirements for applying to college, and there was a big argument, I guess, about how many high schools don't offer that. And I mean, what she was saying, you have to take initiative to do these things. So, I mean, you can't really expect every single high school to do everything possible. I mean, this one is very good in that respect that they want you to go to college, but I mean, not every high school has the ability to do that because of all the millions of parents and kids that they have to deal with on an everyday basis.
Yeah, and now it's before the even college spectrum. The A to G requirements, which were people did great in classes, but weren't the requirements to even apply to college, which the prosecution brought up well, but the defense did pretty well also. And I think high schools just need to have better advisors to get the kids the right courses so they can actually apply to these grants and apply to college in general.
Well, they did say that some high schools only have like one college advisor compared to like a ratio of one advisor and like 3,000 students. So it would be pretty hard to try to help all the students apply to college. So maybe some of those students can actually try to apply to college themselves instead of waiting for help. Exactly.
Yeah, and then being at High Tech High, we don't have the option to pick our courses, but we still get all the right curriculum to apply to college. So maybe a transformation like that school-wide potentially could have this number drop, but I doubt that would happen. So back to the college part, and that was the prosecution. They were talking about, they had Jerry Brown up here, the budget cuts, of course, for colleges, but then they were in this piece of evidence right here. There was a proposed $38.4 million financial aid cut that Jerry Brown was going to do. So I understand that there is opportunities, but if they keep cutting financial aid, nobody's going to want to go to college. Anybody have any opinion on the almost $40 million budget cut that Brown has proposed?
I think it's like California could obviously be doing more to, benefit higher education and accessibility to higher education, and students as a whole could probably, and individuals could probably be doing more to, seek out opportunities to benefit their own higher education. I think the question is is what California is doing right now, is that enough? Are they meeting what we expect of them?
Is that actually killing the American dream, the full 360?
Well, right now they were talking about Proposition 30 and how it will raise taxes to the rich and hopefully put more money into spending for education so that we can stop doing budget cuts and everything. But why do they propose that now? Exactly. Why after so much of the debt and so many budget cuts for everyone, why do they do that now?
So before we move on to the defense side of things, any warm and cool feedback, critiques for the prosecution? Anybody here? Just go ahead.
I think they had really good arguments and points, but there were some points in their prosecution where they were really there and they kind of scrambled a little bit.
Randy, is this what you mean by feedback like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I kind of saw that too. They weren't always, they didn't exactly know where some of their evidence was, and the witnesses weren't always incredibly prepared for all the questions that were being asked.
On the witness view, on the witness spectrum, a lot of some, the witnesses either they knew one side really well, and then when the defense came, they didn't know it, or if you were on the or you're the defense team and the prosecution came, you just didn't know it, and then usually it got higher and just went into an argument, and then Ryan was here just trying to do his best, so that was a big no-no, and for cool feedback.
I think the prosecution did really well on the witnesses. They did ask good questions, and
They did do well or didn't?
they did. Yeah, they did ask good questions, and for me, I was able to understand the questions well.
Wait, did you say did or didn't?
Did.
They did. What about on this side? A little quiet.
I think they had good arguments, but there were parts where I felt their arguments weren't as strong. So, for example, when they were talking about the A through G requirements, I don't know, I felt like their argument wasn't as strong. But then, in the end today, when they made the comparison of money that goes towards students as opposed to money that goes to prisons, they had strong arguments like that.
So the prosecution was basically stronger in the financial
More in
part.
Yeah. That's what I felt like.
They definitely have their numbers on point. Any final things before we move on to the defense? What about 15, 20 minutes on prosecution. Okey-dokey, on to the defense, and they had these three witnesses, Gary Brown, Richard Blum, and Nancy Yarbrough. I know we've been going back and forth, but now we're going to primarily focus on the defense. What were the initial facts and evidence that you guys caught that they were presenting, trying to defend California? What was the defense evidence? For the defense, they kept bringing up, I think it was Prop 30 and another bill they were talking about. I love how they kept bringing up all these things that could help California, but none of the things are currently helping California. So if worse comes to worse and this Prop 30 doesn't get approved, it's not gonna, like, all the evidence that they've been presenting would just kind of sink down to the drain, in my opinion. And that's what it's presenting. They have opportunities, but then they were talking about the funding for scholarships and grants, and we just saw in evidence that that's probably going to be cut by $40 million.
Yeah, well, with the defense's first witness, Richard Blum, he said that the accessibility is there. It's just that people don't really have the will, or like they should get the will to actually go and apply to college.
Yeah. And then Blum said 65% of graduates are in debt from loans as soon as they graduate college. So imagine if the $40 million in grants that they have gotten, imagine the number would probably spike as well.
I thought the defense did a really good job of like organization. It was almost like their argument as a whole was almost kind of like an essay. Like with each witness, they presented a point, and then they got the witness to demonstrate a point, and then they presented evidence. Like with the first guy, she kind of talked about how, you know, students at universities right now are economically diverse, and a lot of students are being educated, and anyone can go in. And then with the second guy, they were kind of talking about Prop 30 and how there are already plans to improve, and how, you know, California is doing their best. They don't actually have the funds to really do very much right now. And with the last person, it was about scholarships and how they're, you know, helping with financial aid. And I felt like I got something different from each witness, and altogether it kind of came together as a really strong argument.
Yeah, there was definitely no repetition with the defense. They kept it fresh and gave new questions and witnesses every time.
With the defense also, they didn't just only bring up Prop 30 and like other acts and everything. They also kind of bring up how California right now is having stuff for a diverse group of people, like undocumented people, people with disabilities, stuff like that, and like they kept bringing up what they could do to apply to get to a higher education as well.
Yeah, what did you guys think about that AB 540 law that gave undocumented students the right to go to college? They met all the criteria.
I thought that's good. I mean, if you can just find a way to get all the requirements done, I mean, you don't want to limit the education just because, I mean, they're here in America, so you kind of have to deal with them now.
And that kind of ties back into the big American dream,
Yeah.
Getting your education from not being an American citizen. Okay. Any other piece of information that the defense had?
Something, or I guess going back to the AB 540, I think it doesn't like violate the American dream. I feel like it supports it, and it goes along with that same theme, because even though the students are undocumented, as they take the initiative and they know that they want to go to college, then they're fulfilling the American dream for themselves. Even if they're not born in America, they can still achieve it.
Yeah.
And it also kind of shows flexibility with the education. So like even like what she was saying, even if you're not from America, you can still get an education and still be successful in your life however you want to be.
Oh, well, you guys are keeping the ball rolling. What about their cross-examinations? Anybody see any connection between cross-examinations from the defense? I felt like their cross-examinations were, I think they were stronger. They got more information out of the witnesses of the prosecutions.
I agree. I think the defense had really good cross-examinations. Like, they got information, but they also, like, kind of confused the witness. Like, they confused them on how to, like, answer. So they kind of got the upper hand on that.
Yeah, I think they asked really well-structured questions, and it was almost like they had already like planned it all out, which they probably did. So I think that helped like their questions have a little more like made the witnesses think a little bit more about their answers.
Yeah, like they caught them off guard.
Yeah.
And they kept bringing up the fact about like anybody can go to college. Doesn't matter about your race, gender, how big you are. Anybody can go to college, which ties back into the American dream. But then they were more about the funding of how you can go to college. The two sides clashing. Let's keep going. Actually, you guys want to see the evidence from the defense?
Is there any evidence that shows the AB 545?
Yes, it's somewhere in all these papers. Oh, gosh. Huh? Oh, I'm looking at
It wasn't in there. I already looked through it.
Oh, wait, no. I don't know. I'm not sure if this is a piece of evidence. It's after typing. I'm not sure if it's actually evidence of the AB 540, because the prosecution really didn't go against any of the numbers or figures of the AB 540.
No.
No,
They can't tell you now.
There was evidence. I saw it. I don't know where it is.
You guys want to go through that?
If they presented evidence and you don't remember it, then you should be talking about that, you know?
I think overall both the defense and the prosecutors did make strong arguments. So right now I'm like, in my head I'm trying to decide if California is or isn't guilty, depending on their arguments, because the defense was, like you said, was mainly about what could California be doing, and the prosecutors did kind of dip into what California is doing right now and how they're limiting the access right now rather than trying to help out. But overall, both sides did make good arguments, but I can't tell if California is or isn't guilty.
Okie dokie. Warm, cool feedback for the defense. Let's all go around and give good feedback and warm feedback, preferably warm. Start there.
The defense overall, they made strong arguments and they had good questions toward the prosecution's witnesses and towards their own witnesses. So with their own witnesses, it wasn't exactly like they didn't try to plan it out, like they actually made their own witnesses think as well. So they had good questions and arguments.
Yeah, they had definitely like evidence, and that kind of ties around organization. They were pretty well organized.
Yeah, I definitely saw that. They were very prepared, like what she was saying about the witnesses. They knew a lot more about who they were. being at that time, like, they knew how to answer a variety of questions a little more, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. I think they did a really good job with organization and like questioning. They had very strong like arguments and they actually made sense.
Mine would be, for one, feedback for both. Defense, they used the prosecution's own evidence against them sometimes, which I thought was really a strong point. And just the sense of organization that they had and having objection when they needed to object, and the fire they had was just what kept it more organized and well organized in my head.
Yeah, I thought it was just a lot. They presented their argument in a way that made it easy to keep track of the points, so you kind of remembered, oh yeah, they had a lot of strong points. It wasn't kind of just like, oh, they had a bunch of jumbled like things that they said that kind of supported their argument.
Yeah, I think both of the arguments were really organized, and they had and they were really strong arguments.
Yeah, I think the defense side, they used a lot of objections, but that also, it was for their own benefit. Sometimes it was a little bit too much, but it was fine. Both arguments posed very good ideas.
Yeah, I thought they were really organized too, and I think they were really good at manipulating the answers they wanted out of the witnesses. Like they knew how to get what they wanted, and I thought that was good.
Yeah, with pretty much what everyone else is saying, they did a really good job organizing their ideas, and they had they had the right evidence for their argument, so they did a really good job supporting it. I do think at times the objections went a little bit overboard, but I mean, some of them, they were like easy to understand, but then sometimes it kind of felt like there was a little bit too many.
If you want to take our, how do we go about the voting process now?
That's up to you. Do you all want to vote by raising your hands, or do you want to vote by writing it down?
Writing it down. More suspenseful.
Okay, and everyone needs a small piece of paper.
I'm gonna put it in a hat.
They'll just write on the, okay, so everyone in the jury needs a small piece of paper. Before you vote, you need to make sure that they understand exactly who is accused and exactly what they're accused of, so they know what they mean when they write guilty or not guilty. Then you're going to pass them all up here. You will count them up, okay? As you're counting, don't reveal like one guilty, one not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just divide them into two piles.
Okay.
Okay. So you know what the verdict is, but they don't. Then, hold on one second. If there's 10 people here, if you end up with 5 and 5, then you'll just say, we have a hung jury, we'll go back and discuss again and re-vote. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Talk about suspense.
Okay.
All right.
So go over this and this, and make it. That now is the time to ask questions for that. Okay.
Okay. Anybody? Huh?
Yes. Yeah.
There was what?
Reiterate who's defense and who's prosecution.
Just to make it clear, like who is prosecuting and who is defending, and what they're prosecuting for, and what they're defending against. Also,
Well, don't vote yet. Do not vote.
yeah.
Scratch that paper. Crumple it up. Thank you. Do not vote yet. Let me just clarify. Prosecution is going against the state of California, okay? And the defense is defending, and that is for the count of the violation of the spirit of the American dream. So, does everybody understand what the American dream is from this trial? Any questions before we vote? Because you guys rest. Your vote is California's not going to jail or not, or are we doing death penalty? Just realize this is through the limited access to higher education. That is it.
So then what
That
does
is
the
it.
American dream have to do with it exactly?
What do you think? That's why I just wanted, we need to get this discussion.
Well, does the American, what exactly
It's
does...
not asking just, is California limiting access? It's asking, are they limiting access, and is their limiting access to higher education violating the American dream?
Which is everybody. So
So that's good. Now's the perfect time to ask questions like that to clarify
before you anybody.
what the charge actually is. Does that help you?
Yeah.
Just ask questions, and one of our jurors will probably answer it. If not, oh well. You guys.
So then their final argument was mainly like financially it is limiting education, right? Like that's kind of what their argument was?
For the prosecution?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
The prosecution mostly used financial pieces of evidence to prosecute the state of California,
Yeah.
saying that
Okay.
it is hampering the American dream spirit. Okay, and the defense was saying no. Are we all clear?
Traditionally, when you vote,
separate rooms.
A vote of guilty means that a vote of guilty typically means, or should mean, that you believe this party is beyond a reasonable doubt guilty of this. If you are doubting their guilt of the full count, typically that means not guilty. Okay.
Innocent man in jail.
So again, if you are at all wanting to ask questions about this, now is the perfect time, because if you vote guilty, you're voting guilty for the whole thing. Okay? Yeah.
Can we vote that they're guilty for violating the American dream and vote not guilty for limiting access to higher education?
Can she do that? What do you think?
Is it 2 different counts? If so,
Wait,
one
is it up to us or like?
No, but it's one. It's not.
I don't think you can.
You can't.
I know.
So
they tied it in, like that's what the argument was.
And you explained it earlier that the limiting the count is really something. You said something about limiting access to an education is the violation of the American dream, according to the count. Right, so you can like reverse the order. If you believe that connection was made by the prosecution, then how should you vote? If you believe that connection is not really there, or that the defense sufficiently pulled it apart, or the defense showed that the education that's provided is sufficient, or whatever, then what should you vote? You don't vote innocent, you vote
Not guilty.
not guilty. Okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
More questions?
I don't know why I said yes and no.
Okay, it's 4 minutes, up to you.
All right, guys. Once you have your vote, you need a hat.
Just fold it in half, pass it.
Okay, just fold it in half and wait. Satisfied with your vote?
Say it already.
Okay, hold on. There's a script for you, Judge. You have a script also. Okay, Judge, go for it.
Wait.
Jury foreman, do you have a verdict?
Yes, I have a verdict. The jury finds.
Hold on, wait 1 second.
Oh, God! Please read your verdict to the court. Please formulate the defendant in the full text to the court.
Yes, yeah, hold on. And you must say the exact stuff up there.
Okay.
Stand up when you do this, please. Okay, hold on. Give the cameraman a second here because we want this.
I'll take reaction.
I probably will. My head is just not
And try it.
Just block it. Just not stand there. And then block the mic.
Okay, is he ready?
Yeah, go when you're ready.
All right. The jury finds the defendant, the state of California, guilty.
Oh, I mean, no.
Count this again, please.
That's right.
It's
What? My bad. Not guilty. For the violation of the spirit of the American dream, limited access to a sufficient higher education by a vote to 3.
Why did you go?
Why would you do that? That is
Oh my God. Wait, so we were only 2 hours.
You can bang your gavel.
That's great.
Go.
Yo.
Oh gosh.
Throw the hammer.
Court finds.
So basically now the judge is, he can accept the verdict. I had to step in there because I watched the vote count happen.
Yeah. Sorry.
He was like, are you
Okay, so now the judge, are you accepting this that's basically what's happening here.
Yeah, I guess I do.
Okay, so read this, yeah.
The court finds the defendant not guilty of violating the American dream through limiting access to higher education.
This court is now recessed.
This court is now recessed. The case is now over. Thank you very much.
Can we go to lunch?